What's up, Eagles fans? Welcome into Inside Training Camp presented by Independence Blue Cross. Today, we're going to share some thoughts from Eagles training camp. We have some laughs that we're going to share, and we're all decked out in our Kelly Greens as I welcome in my friends Ross Tucker and Merrill Reese. And guys, we're fresh off the field here at Eagles training camp. We've got a lot to discuss, but these Kelly Greens look outstanding. You guys look outstanding here.
Well, that's all you see all over the place.
Yes.
It's great.
It is unbelievable. And this, Merrill, this was my heyday. Right? This is like 85 to 95. This is when I was 6 years old till 16. And I don't even know, do we know how good we had it back then?
I don't think so.
I mean, we knew they were cool uniforms, but now it's like everybody goes goo goo gaga over them. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I have one on my wall at home under in a glass frame, and it's the Steve Van Buren jersey when they were Kelly green, but the shoulders were white, and the white stripe
I've
right
seen
down.
those. Those are awesome.
Yeah, that was
awesome.
the 1940s.
Well, you'll have to bring that here next week here on the show.
You weren't doing the games then, were you?
Yeah, I was. I was in my third year.
I'm sure we have plenty of thoughts that you can share.
I was one of those who shoveled the snow in the 1948 championship game.
Well, instead of talking through 1940, let's talk about today. Just general thoughts walking off the practice field. Ross, I'll come to you first. Just what's going through your mind after you watch the Eagles practice today?
Well, one thing that goes through my mind, and this happens the first padded practice I'm at every year, I look at the O-line and think, oh my gosh. And then I look at some of the defensive linemen, the Eagles D-line rotation.
Yeah.
I think about how many guys that probably won't start for them that would start for other teams right now. I mean, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams. I mean, you can go down the line. They are very much too deep on the D-line.
And that's the way they want to be built, right? It's just always having those waves of defensive linemen coming in and out. Merrill, you've been here for a handful of Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah,
that's been a theme. That's been a theme throughout.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is, I think they have the best offensive line in the National Football League.
Yeah.
And that's with making a switch because of Ciamalo's departure, and it'll probably be Cam Jurgens the way I see it. But it's a great offensive line, and as great as Jalen Hurts is, and I have loved him from the beginning, and I think he's one of the top three quarterbacks in football, the offensive line is an enormous key. And when you have him behind that offensive line, and you add, I've said this, Ross and Fran, the best trio of receivers that I have ever seen the Eagles have. Now, people stop me and they say, well, how about your partner, Mike Quick and Harold Carmichael? Remember, Harold Carmichael in 1982 was near the end of his career.
Yeah. Mike
Quick was a rookie and only caught 10 balls. But when you take Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and add in Dallas Goedert, boy, that is poison to a secondary.
Yeah, we were talking about this week on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. It's almost the transformation in the last year. How crazy it's we see Jalen Hurts out there and he has a great day at practice. Last year that would have been the headline, and now he kind of has reset those expectations, where that's par for the course now for Jalen.
Yeah, and we went from a year or two ago with all the fans saying the Eagles have no receivers to now I think they have the best receiving duo in the NFL. I mean, they're certainly up there with like Chase and T. Higgins and some of the other teams. There's a strong argument they have the best receiving duo in the entire NFL. It's amazing how quickly Howie Roseman flipped that thing.
Yeah, and to your point, Merrill, when you factor in Dallas Goedert into that equation, that trio right there is as good as it gets.
See, I was never, even last year, down on Jalen Hurts. I've been a Jalen Hurts fan from the first time I saw him at Alabama. Loved him at Oklahoma, stood up and cheered when the Eagles drafted him in that second round. I've always loved Jalen Hurts. I love his arm. I love his intelligence. I love his speed, his athleticism, everything about Jalen Hurts. But I never looked at last year's practice and say, well, he was off here. I think the silliest thing people do is when they say he was 6'12" at practice today. Who cares?
Yep.
This is, to quote Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice. None of that stuff means anything. Even I heard people criticizing Mariota. He doesn't look sharp. Well, Mariota's out there right now trying to learn a brand new offense. Whether the pass is complete or not, right now, doesn't matter. He's learning a new offense. And I think these guys are doing it very, very well.
If you judged every golfer by what they look like at the driving range, it wouldn't always look great, Merrill. I mean, I feel like that's what you have to embrace is the fact these guys are all out there every day working on something. It's not trying to always look at your very best. You're trying to improve certain areas of your game.
And that's a really good point, Fran, especially as you get older. You might even be trying something.
Yeah.
And it might not go well, right? You might want to be working, let's say you're offensive lineman, you want to work on your inside hand. Well, maybe you get beat a couple times. But you can always default back to what you've always done. But you're trying to say, maybe if I do this a little bit more, maybe that works for me. So I think that's a really good point that people don't think about enough is a lot of times these guys are specifically trying to work on improving in one area.
Yeah. You know what I like most about practice? There is no messing around. The practices aren't especially long, but every single second counts. Everybody is so focused. The coaches, the equipment people, the ball boys, everybody is right there. It's like clockwork. Nothing is wasted.
Well, let's rewind a little bit to this past Monday, 9 a.m. That's when the Kelly Greens officially dropped over at the Eagles Pro Shop. And the Eagles fans that came out in force. 3:30 in the morning, they were out tailgating, getting ready for the Pro Shop to open, guys. It was a hell of a scene over here. Is there anything, Ross, that would get you out of bed at 3:30 in the morning?
Well, I saw Rita's. The Rita's, I didn't know they had a Rita's tent there. That changed things a little bit for me. I will say this.
Green apple, by the way, is the best.
You know what? I tried Georgia peach today, and that was delicious. I don't think there are very many fan bases that would do this.
This is insane.
I mean, maybe a handful in the NFL that would line up like this to be able to get into the Pro Shop. What did that thing look like after those people went through it?
Well, to be honest, it looked exactly like this because the Pro Shop, they were ready. They were absolutely ready. And even like going in Monday afternoon, you go in on Tuesday, they're stocked and ready to go. Like you can still walk into the Pro Shop, any of our 3 Pro Shop locations. You go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com. A lot of this gear that you're seeing here on your screen or the stuff that we're wearing here on set, it's available for
Fran,
fans to go and get.
I was in the Pro Shop on Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And it was still packed.
Yeah.
Still packed. I was lucky to be able to fill my family's orders.
I got my wife and my son both a Jalen Hurts Kelly Green. I've got one of those bad boys right here. Your thoughts overall? I mean, what were your guys' favorites in terms of these jerseys?
They're
new
beautiful.
Beautiful ones.
I love the original Kelly Green.
Yeah.
But even though the shade, the color is the same, this has a certain sheen to it that it just jumps out. It's beautiful.
I love the Eagle logo with the talons and the ball on the side of the jerseys. I mean, like I said earlier.
Do you want to see something?
Let
me just show you something.
I'm a little bit nervous. Okay.
Can you get a shot of
look at that.
That is awesome.
I did a show with Ron Jaworski called Celebrity Sports Talk in 1980, and this is what the guests got. This little chain with the eagle, and I have been wearing it ever since.
That is incredible.
How often do you wear? I was gonna say how often you wear
it? It never comes off.
Wow.
It never comes off. I sleep with it in a shower.
You know, Merrill, some people wear crosses on their chain. Merrill wears the Eagles logo.
Every day. So what is that? That's 43 years now.
Whatever it is, but it's 1980 to 2023.
That's insane. Well, let me ask this question. What's your favorite jersey that you've seen so far? We'll go through some of these pictures here. Jalen Hurts, and you see Devontae Smith. This shoot has been outstanding.
Look at Randall on the cover of Game Day.
Outstanding.
Randall Cunningham, my favorite player ever. Oh, man. Look how big his legs are, by the way.
Wow, yeah.
The power.
Squat 600 pounds. BG, I think, looked outstanding in this shoot, and him with the boombox.
The socks are huge. The socks are
But
key.
you know what's wrong with the BG picture?
What's that?
Can you run that back? BG. When have you seen BG when he wasn't smiling? BG is always smiling.
Even when he's talking trash.
I have always said that if I happen to come here in the facility during the day and I happen to bump into BG that morning, my whole day just got better.
No question.
He's the most uplifting person I've ever met.
They probably had to tell him to
don't smile.
Yeah, let's see
look,
the meme.
look mean.
I mean, just look how beautiful the helmet is too. It's just incredible.
This is my favorite look, by the way. The single digit Devontae Smith. That is actually my favorite jersey of these new ones.
I love the side stripe on the pants too.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, these look great.
Bradbury shouldn't be on a cell phone, though, if we're going back to the 80s and the 90s.
But notice his cell phone there, he's holding.
Well, that's the thing, is that obviously we didn't see.
He's holding his cell phone.
Maybe that's like the Zach Morris car phone, mobile phone from Saved by the Bell.
Well, and that's the thing, Merrill, you're wearing your chain from 1980, and
I am.
now this is your 47th?
47th season.
Well, what's amazing?
I started when I was 14, by the way.
Yeah. Well, you've always had to evolve and stay ahead of the times. Look, the media has changed over the course of your tenure here.
It has.
A great example, you were just in studio this week reviewing all of this Kelly Green merch. Let's take a look at that shoot.
Eagles fans were lined up at 3:30 a.m. for the Kelly Green jersey release. No cap. The Eagles drumline and cheerleaders performed for the crowd, and it was bussin'. No part of the day was mid. Hold it. Is that mid one low key?
Yep. So mid is one word. So like,
Wait, no part of the day was mid. I low-key thought.
Yes.
Okay. No part of the day was mid. I low-key thought it was terrific. Heard from around the pro shop were the fans chanting E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles, as well as screams saying, "This Jalen Hurts jersey is gas," and Jason Kelsey's jersey is cool AF. The staff had such riz and kept everything calm and orderly while constantly restocking the shelves. They were vibing the whole time. Everyone kept saying "Slay," and I thought they were referring to Big Play Slay. There were no Merrill Reese jerseys available for purchase, which I thought was sus. I can't wait to post photos from the day to my Finsta.
Merrill, that was perfect.
Good.
Have you ever heard of any of those words?
None.
Merrill, just comedic gold. Has anyone ever come to you with it? Your delivery is just outstanding.
I just think I needed some makeup.
I never heard of a couple of bussin'. I don't really know. What's Finsta? Isn't it Insta?
Yeah, there's a lot. We'll catch you up after the show. There's a lot of things I'm still coming to grips with, but Merrill, caps off to you because
That was
outstanding.
incredible.
It just tells you that I can read.
Well, again, just evolving with the times, right? Well, let's get us caught up to date now. Just again, we're over a week now into training camp. We've seen now the team put the pads on now for a couple of days. Merrill, just as this team is really starting to take shape, what are some of your big takeaways now as we're a handful of practices into camp?
They're good.
Yeah.
They're really, really good. And I think that going into the season, they will enter the season as the best team in the NFC. They truly are maybe the best team in the NFL. However, the NFL is a war of attrition, and we don't know. When fans say, are they going back to the Super Bowl? I don't know. Are they capable? Of course. They are one of the best teams in football. But you know what? I know that on September the 10th or whatever it is, they're opening in New England. That's all I know. And I'll focus. I sound like a coach. I'm only focused on the New England game. And then it's a week-by-week thing. And you just never know.
Couple takeaways for me. One, Merrill pointed out the war of attrition. One thing I think they do really well here is making sure they have depth and competition at every spot.
Yep.
I mean, I'm looking out there and you see even like Kentavious Street is working like second or third string. I mean, he's a rotational D tackle in the NFL. The Eagles put themselves in a position where that last spot, that's a battle. They're not giving that to whoever, Tui Peloto, whoever. They're not giving that to anybody. And if they suffer an injury in camp, they already have that next guy here that can play in games and play well for them. The other thing, Fran, that I keep an eye on, rookies and new guys or guys in new spots. And one thing I've been concerned about, and I've been talking about this offseason, is the right guard spot. Isaac Seumalo got overshadowed by Lane Johnson, Kelsey, and rightfully so. Now you're putting a guy in Cam Jurgens that's never played guard before at guard. Boy, he looks good. I mean, I was highly encouraged. It's so different because, Merrill, when you're playing center, the nose tackle's right here. You just snap it and grab him, right? Guard, there's space and time, and it's a different pass protection. Watching him out there, he looked good. A couple of guys looked at me and were talking to me and saying, he looks good. And Cam clearly feels very comfortable out there at right guard. Such a great sign.
The only negative I heard about the replacement was the fact that he's not big for a guard. He's not 230 pounds and 225. He's nothing like Landon Dickerson on the other side.
Sure.
But he's almost the same size as Siamalo.
Right, and I think he's plenty big enough, and he makes up for it with his athleticism. The other thing is, taking a look at some of the rookies, Fran, my first time really getting a chance to see them.
Sure.
Nolan Smith, explosive burst, and he's like the Energizer Bunny running around there. And then Jalen Carter, I saw power. I saw he's slippery, able to get on the edges of people and knife in between. I think both those guys will contribute this year as rookies.
Can I tell you what I love most about Nolan Smith is that everything he does, whether it's team drills, individuals, special teams, everything is fast and violent. Like every time he makes contact with a bag or with an offensive player, everything, you just see like the knockback and you see like that twitch, that explosiveness. That shows up every single rep. He's so much fun to watch.
Can you actually imagine coming out of the first round of the draft with Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, with both of them? I didn't think Carter would be there, so my pick would be Smith.
Yep.
And not only do they get Carter at 10, they end up getting Smith at 30.
There was no, Fran and I talked about this during the draft, there was no mock draft in which Carter was still there at 9 or 10, Nolan Smith was there at 30. If you talk to every Eagles fan watching us right now, and they wrote out their wish list, they wouldn't have been that brazen to say Carter at 9 and Smith at 30. They would have been like, you would have looked at it and been like, well, this is
Throw this
stupid.
thing out, yeah.
Nolan Smith's going to be gone way before then.
Well, you and I, we were sitting here, as you mentioned, we were sitting here for the draft, Merrill, and we're watching, Nolan Smith is still on the board, and it's like 15, 16. And we're sitting there, we're just watching, we're like, all right, another pick. And I look at Ross, and I'm like, Merrill, there's a shot here. And we actually had it.
We thought they were going to trade up.
Yeah, we were like,
thought
okay,
they might trade up again.
I can't believe he's still on the board. And the Eagles ended up with both these guys, and both guys have looked
It's
really
amazing.
good to start
It
camp.
really is amazing.
Yeah, and you talked about seeing Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen getting a lot of reps here, the rookie offensive
left
lineman.
tackle today.
He was at left tackle today, a lot of shakeup, and that versatility is so important. So Tyler Steen working primarily at right guard throughout camp. He worked at left tackle. They took Dennis Kelly, who was at left tackle.
See, I
He went to
think
guard.
that's a big move.
Huge.
Getting Dennis Kelly back here.
Yeah.
I visited with him today, and Dennis Kelly has had a very good NFL career.
12 years.
And he gives them depth. He gives them experience. He's a durable guy. He's a big addition.
Both guards, both tackles. We talk about it all the time, especially up front, all across the roster, but especially up front. Howie Roseman and the Eagles, they're never going to be a guy short. They're never going to allow an O-line injury to ruin the season.
Yep.
Because you see it happen to other teams. They lose one or two guys, and it's like the guy they put in is not ready to play. They can't play with them, and it costs them games.
Well, we've talked about the offensive line, the playmakers. Is there one defensive player that has caught your eye, Merrill, so far over these first 5-6 practices?
I think they've all looked pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in Nakobe Dean.
Yeah.
I think he's going to fill in well. I think he's got brains. I think he's got great instincts. I think he's got speed. He's not the biggest linebacker in the world, but I think he's going to make a big difference.
I'm going to go Reed Blankenship.
Yeah.
He
I like
kind of
him
came
too.
out of nowhere last year. He's getting all the reps with the ones. I can tell you from experience, there's usually a big jump from year 1 to year 2, especially if you're like an undrafted guy. Now, he did very well in his playing time last year, but I think there's a chance that Reed Blankenship, with a year under his belt, getting all the reps with the one. I mean, last year he barely even got any reps because he's a third-string undrafted free agent.
Free agent
Now
at
he's
Middle
getting,
Tennessee State.
Now he's getting the reps with the ones. I think there's a chance he elevates his game more than maybe we're talking about.
Yeah, and still is going to be a factor on special teams as well.
I'll give you another name that I can't wait to see because we'll probably see him in the preseason games where we won't see the veterans. Sidney Brown.
Sure.
Yeah.
The rookie safety
Sidney
from
Brown,
Illinois.
rookie safety from Illinois. He is somebody to watch.
Yeah, explosive. I mean, this guy, he's well put together. He's going to be a fun player to watch. You'll be breaking him down in the preseason.
And he's a guy that will show up even more in the games
Yes.
where it's full speed and tackling than in the practices where they're doing certain periods.
Well, Sidney Brown going through his first training camp. Merrill, this is your 47th, and which is, does it feel like it's been that long? We've got some footage, I know, of you taking in practice over these last couple of
You know,
months.
I don't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. I mean, things that I think about, watching some of those replays, they seem like they were 5-6 years ago. And then you find out they were back in, 2003.
It's unbelievable. You know, Merrill, I have so many memories. I know, Fran, you can talk about them too, but just being in the car with my dad.
Yep.
and I had maybe like an under-8 soccer game or something stupid that I had to play, and then we're getting gas afterwards, and my dad's dying for my game to be over so he could listen to you, and we're getting in the gas station, and I just remember hearing, sacked and they got him again. And my dad and I were like, yeah.
But you know what? Like it's not even like the big moments and the memorable calls for me. It's also like some of like the random games that I remember. Like some of the calls. I remember when Mark Simoneau had to take kicks because the kicker David Akers got hurt, and Mark Simoneau's out there kicking the ball.
Yeah.
Like I remember exactly where I was in the car listening to you and Mike calling that game. Right? Like there's just those random moments, and it's obviously a legendary career.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of things have happened over the years. But I can tell you this, I have loved every single second of it. There's nothing in the world I would rather do. And when people say, how long do you want to do this? My answer is forever. Because I have no thoughts of retiring. I love what I do. I feel great. My voice hasn't changed. My eyes haven't changed. I can still remember names. I just don't remember when Cindy tells me to pick up something on the way home. I forget that, but I saw Clay Harbor, the tight end at practice that he came to visit. You remember Clay Harbor?
Sure.
And I kind of said to him, I'm from Missouri State. He couldn't believe that I remembered that he went to Missouri State, the same school as Ryan Howard.
Well,
That's amazing.
I've got a piece of trivia. So Clay Harbor, after he leaves the NFL, participated in a reality TV show. I'll give you a multiple choice here, okay? So we'll say Survivor, Big Brother, Bachelorette, and we'll say Paradise Island. You pick which one do you think he went on? If you had to pick a show.
I think I know, so I'll let
I
Merrill
don't
go.
know. I would say Bachelorette.
Well, let's go. I think we caught up with Clay. Let's see what he had to say.
Merrill, your favorite tight end was on The Bachelorette and The Bachelor in Paradise.
So you nailed it, Merrill. Bachelor in Paradise. I don't know if Clay knew that you were going to be able to get that recall.
I think I said Bachelorette. I don't know. But I didn't see him on that. By the way, he's completing his master's degree from Indiana University.
Awesome.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is
Good for him.
awesome. Well,
His MBA.
Well, we talked about your ability to connect with the youth, and so we went to Reddit and we got some questions from our fans
Sure.
to be able to ask you. So I want to ask a handful of them. Are there any iconic NFL voices that you, Merrill, grew up hearing? Who was your Merrill Reese when you were growing up?
I think the announcer that I loved the most was Bill Campbell, the late Bill Campbell. And he was a wonderful broadcaster. He not only did the Eagles, he did the Phillies, he did the Sixers, he did the Warriors, he did everything but hockey. But Bill Campbell, I would go to Franklin Field with my dad, and I'd put the binoculars on the team. And when they went into the huddle, I looked up at Bill Campbell in the broadcast booth and said, someday that's where I want to be.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And on the national scene, there was a broadcaster who you might remember by the name of Ray Scott, who did the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, and he was wonderful.
Awesome.
Also loved and got to meet 4 years ago or 5 years ago and have lunch with Jack Whitaker, who had done 16 Super Bowls, and we had lunch together.
What'd you get?
What did I eat? You know what? I don't know what I ate, but what I got was a lot of great stories.
Yeah.
We ate in the trophy room at the Marion Golf Club, and it was just incredible to be sitting there with Jack Whitaker.
I'm sure the people sitting at the table next to
Yeah.
had to enjoy their lunch while you guys were enjoying yours. Another question here. As media has changed and evolved over the years, especially with video becoming so dominant, what has that experience been like from a broadcaster's angle? Do you do anything differently now than you did when you first started?
The biggest difference is the fact that when I first started, all the commercials were played back at the station during timeouts or halftime. Today we have what are called drop-ins because everything is sponsored.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the salaries of the players, you look at the broadcast rights, this is a very, very big business. And there is often a card being handed to me, and it's the this of the game and that of the game, and they're in this red zone. So everything is sponsored, not only on our broadcast, but all broadcasts. But it's just part of the business. But you know what? The game itself is better than ever. The quality of the play, the athleticism, it's better than ever, and I love it every bit as much.
Our viewers on YouTube can go back and check like some of the Merrill Cam features that we've done in the past. It is crazy in your.
There's a lot going on.
Yes, there's a lot going on.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that the changes, they have the cameras in the booth now.
Yeah.
I love the Merrill Cam when they show that with the highlights. It's awesome.
So, Merrill, what's your favorite call that you would not typically think of? Not, the Miracle at the Meadowlands or Randall versus Bruce Smith or Super Bowl 52. Do you have a call that you're like, I nailed that one. That was a good one.
Boy, that's you just took away my favorite one, which was December 19th, 2010, when Deshaun Jackson took it back to beat the Giants. I mean, that was the favorite one of all time. But I mean, you didn't mention the first one where I was wrapping up a game on November 19th, 1978, at Giant Stadium, a very, very ordinary game, and I was talking about the fact that the Eagles were going to play the Cardinals in St. Louis the following week, when lo and behold, Joe Pisarcik fumbled the football, Herman Edwards picked it up, and that was the I can't believe it. I cannot believe what happened here, ladies and gentlemen. And that funny story about that, a number of years ago, Derek Boyko, the Eagles PR director, said, have you ever met Jim Nance? I said, no, I love Jim Nance, but I've never met him. So he took me into the CBS booth, and as I walked down the steps, Jim Nance looked up and said, Merrill. And I got to talk to him, and he said, wait a minute. He picked up the phone and he called the CBS truck, and he said, Jim, come up here right now. And this technician came up into the booth. He said, Jim, Merrill Reese, do it. And Jim says, under 30 seconds left, and Pisarcik fumbles the football. I didn't know it, but he had every word.
When you're walking in during training camp, like coming in with all the fans, I mean, your calls are playing. Like, do you ever like kind of step back and kind of relish that's such a ingrained part of so many Eagles fans' lives?
I'm flattered that they do it, but I don't pay any attention.
Yep.
I do when you walk in. It's such a nice touch. It gets you pumped up for training camp practice.
So you've been working with Mike Quick now since the late 90s.
26 years for Mike.
That's insane.
26. 14 for Stan Walters.
Yeah, and obviously you've known him since he was a player. How special is the bond between the two of you? And are there any special memories that you can share of your time working with Mike?
We're just great friends.
Yeah.
When Mike was a player, I would go over to his locker quite often because he treated everybody with respect. And to watch Mike develop as a broadcaster is really a thrill. I said to Mike the other day, and I can say the same thing to you, Ross, if either one of you had not been a player and just concentrated on becoming a broadcaster, you still would have been successful because you have that ability and you have that communication skill. And that's the great thing, to see Mike develop as a broadcaster. We go to each other's family celebrations. We do play a lot of golf together. Mike is a great friend. To have him in the booth is just a treat.
Do you guys take some time away from each other during the summer because you're going to be seeing each other, talking to each other?
No,
every
we
day?
just played a 9 and dime with our wives last Friday night. So we're still friends in the summer. And by the way, I still talk to Stan Walters at least once a week. Stan lives in the Atlanta area, and I still am friends with Stan Walters. He will be a friend for life.
That's great. Who's your favorite player over the years? What's the most excited you've been while watching the team?
Favorite player is a tough thing to describe, because if you're talking about a person, there are so many friends that I've had. I just mentioned a while ago about Brandon Graham. Nobody makes you feel better than Brandon Graham. If you want to say to me, who is the most exciting player I have ever watched, I will tell you Randall Cunningham. I mean, he was the ultimate weapon. If you want to say to me, and I know this might make a lot of people irritated, who is the greatest Eagle I have ever seen? See, Doc was great. Doc was absolutely great. But I think the greatest Eagle, in terms of his ability, in terms of his performance, that I have seen in my tenure, which of course did not go back to Van Buren and Chuck Bednarik, even though you think it did. But to me, it was Reggie White.
Yep. Yeah.
Reggie White was the greatest Eagle I have ever seen. And by the way, he was a great person. He was hilarious. His impersonations of me, of Charles Barkley. He did so many impersonations. He was a scream in the locker room. But what a great player! What a great player!
I've gone back and watched a lot of like the old film from like the 90s, and just being able to watch not just that entire defense, but just Reggie. I mean, He just embarrassed me.
But see, when I talk about great players and great people,
Yeah.
you talk about Mike.
Yep.
You talk about Harold Carmichael. You talk about Ron Jaworski. You talk about Donovan. And another one who should be in the Hall of Fame, and I hope he goes in soon, he's a 6-time All-Pro. How about Eric Allen? How about Bill Bergey, who was the dominant middle linebacker? He should be in the Hall of Fame. There's a bunch of them who are just great players.
I think I know how you're going to answer this question, but this is, again, for one of our fans on Reddit. Merrill, do you think that in your heyday that you could get 10 yards on 3 rushes behind the Eagles' offensive line?
No. Absolutely not.
Like-
I would turn and run the other way no matter how good they were.
I don't know. In your heyday, when you were a really good tennis player, you could move a little bit. This O-line, sometimes you get 3 or 4 yards before you're touched.
Yeah, but Ross, I would be dismembered at the first hit.
Not making it to carry
You
2.
can go down. You can go down. Get to 3 or 4 behind Dickerson and Mailata.
You know what?
Take a knee.
I might be able to get a yard behind this offensive line if I quarterback,
Do the
get a
QB
quarterback
sneak.
sneak.
Yeah.
For I can pick up a yard.
Make sure Goddard's there pushing it from behind.
It's almost automatic
Yep.
for Jalen Hurts.
The last question. Can Merrill read me a bedtime story?
Sure. If the honor I had, one of the greatest honors, was when the Eagles did their Christmas charity album this past year, and they had me do the night before Christmas. That was one of the great honors of my life. And believe it or not, during COVID, when schools were shut and everything was virtual, I got requests from a lot of schools to read books for kids. And some of them were bedtime stories and things like that. And I do every now and then read a bedtime story to my own grandson, Ollie. So I do.
Outstanding. I'm sure you would have enjoyed that as a youngster.
I feel like I've heard people, Merrill, that have your voice as like their voicemails or like their ring. Like you're sitting somewhere and all of a sudden it's like Merrill, there's like a Merrill touchdown Eagles. I'm like, what? It's like the guy's ringtones.
Well, I don't want to do this because I get so many requests, because I can't do them for everybody who asks. But it's a charity item that when there's a big charity that comes on, I say I will do their answering machine and they bid on it, because otherwise I'd be doing them every day. That's what I'd be doing. But it's the kind of thing where I go, the Eagles are lining up. Jalen Hurts lines them up. Out to the far side goes A.J. Brown. To the near side goes Ross Tucker. Back goes Hurts. He's looking deep. He's got Tucker at the 15, the 10, the 5. Ross Tucker's gone, but he'll call you back just as soon as he's Now, I'm sorry, I cannot do that unless it's a charity item.
I want that audio. Clip that audio for me.
I don't think we could do any better than that. I think I have to end the
Tucker's
show
gone.
that way. Ross Tucker's gone. Merrill Reese is gone. Guys, this was great. Thanks so much for
Absolutely,
joining
thanks.
us once again here on Inside Training Camp, presented by Independence Blue Cross. We'll see you next week.